On June 21st, a coordinated US strike, Operation Midnight Hammer, pierced the heart of Iran's nuclear program. Fordow, Natanz, Isfahan, names long known to intelligence analysts and diplomats. But on that night, they became the focal point of what may be remembered as a historic moment. The US message was simple: enough. But the implications are anything but. This wasn't just a military action. It was a statement of intent, a redrawing of the strategic map, and a warning to adversaries, both declared and latent. Let's unpack what happened, why it matters, and where the world may be headed next. Welcome to Global Risk Profile, where we go beyond the headlines to uncover the forces reshaping our world. In each episode, we examine the global implications of today's most consequential events. What's really at stake? Who stands to gain or lose? And how does this moment fit into the larger picture? I'm Tammuz Ittai, and today's episode is no exception. In a display of tactical precision, B-2 Spirit bombers launched from Whitman Air Force Base, flying an 18-hour round trip, dropped 14 massive ordnance penetrators, MOPs, into Iran's most hardened nuclear facilities. Over 125 aircraft participated. Tomahawk missiles struck Isfahan from the sea. Decoy bombers were sent west. Tehran's air defenses blinded. The result? Extremely severe damage, according to the Pentagon. Subsurface assessments are ongoing, but early evidence suggests deep disruption to Iran's enrichment infrastructure. Iran has not released convincing imagery or data to counter that claim. The operation launched not from Diego Garcia, a nearby British base, but from US soil. A deliberate decision. The UK reportedly didn't want to be implicated, and so the US went alone. President Trump called it a spectacular military success and warned, if Iran doesn't choose peace, future strikes will be far greater and a lot easier. The timing, just days after Trump promised a decision, this reinforced his reputation for calibrated unpredictability. This was not spontaneous. According to intelligence briefings and IAEA data, Iran was approaching nuclear breakout, weeks, maybe even days away. It had the enriched uranium. It was reconfiguring centrifuge arrays, and it had a delivery system, a tested missile arsenal, and an ICBM development program in motion. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio made the case plainly: act now or risk the unthinkable. Waiting any longer could have allowed Iran to test or deploy a weapon, setting off a regional arms race. The administration insists the president acted within constitutional powers to defend national security. Congress was informed after the strike within the war powers framework. Critics like Representative Thomas Massie disagreed, but even a symbolic impeachment attempt collapsed almost instantly, rejected 344 to 79 in the House. As Senator Fetterman quipped, this isn't going anywhere. The administration's position is clear. Diplomacy was tried. Off-ramps were offered, but Iran refused. As Rubio put it, this wasn't preemptive, it was overdue. In response, Iran launched a small, symbolic missile barrage at a US base in Qatar. No casualties, and reportedly pre-warned. If this feels familiar, it should. It's the same script Iran followed after Soleimani was killed in 2020. A face-saving gesture and then silence. But silence doesn't necessarily mean surrender. Historically, the regime has used ceasefires to regroup, buying time while hoping a shift in US leadership. Inside Iran, the situation is murky. The supreme leader is elderly and reportedly unwell. Many senior military officials are gone. Leadership may be fragmented. Some fear infighting, others sense fear. The taboo of striking within Iran's borders has been broken. The new generation of commanders now knows they're on a list, they can be hit, anywhere, anytime, and without warning. Trump has denied pursuing regime change, but left the door open to the idea. In one post, he mused that if Iran's rulers can't restore the country's greatness, maybe it's time for new ones. But he knows, and so do regional allies, that collapse may bring something worse. A failed state Iran, fragmented among sects, militias, and warlords, possibly sitting on radioactive material. Israel has openly called for the Iranian people to rise up, but no such movement has yet materialized. The exiled crown prince seems to lack visible momentum. In the street, for now, it's quiet. And yet, something has shifted. Eliminated leadership, limited retaliation, diminished alliances. The regime is facing pressure from without and possibly from within. The question is whether that pressure sparks reform, fracture, or revolution. This dilemma isn't new. In 1988, Ayatollah Khomeini agreed to a ceasefire with Iraq, despite years of framing the war as an existential struggle. He likened that decision to drinking a cup of poison, painful, humiliating, but necessary for survival. Today's leadership may face the same bitter choice: abandon the deeply ideological pursuit to preserve the regime's existence. Then there is the bigger picture. China and Russia condemned the strike, but did nothing. Beijing, reliant on Gulf oil, likely advised Iran to stand down. The CCP's silence spoke volumes. They chose oil over ideology and alliances. But beyond oil, China has far more at stake in Iran. Over the past 2 decades, the Chinese Communist Party has embedded itself in Iran's economy through infrastructure investment, cyber technology, partnerships, and long-term oil import deals, most notably through the 25-year strategic cooperation agreement reportedly worth over $400 billion. This includes development of Iranian ports, railroads, communications, and energy sectors, many of which are dual use and provide military applications or surveillance capabilities. For China, Iran isn't just a trading partner. It's a node in the Belt and Road Initiative, a strategic foothold in the Middle East, and a pressure point against U.S. dominance in the region. A stable and anti-American Iranian regime has served Beijing well. But now that investment is at risk, if not lost. If the regime falters, or if Iran is forced to abandon its nuclear ambitions, as it seems now, and maybe reintegrate with the West, many of those Chinese deals could evaporate. More worryingly for Beijing, the collapse of Iranian resistance could embolden a regional counter-axis. The Abraham Accords, Israel, the Gulf states, maybe even India, all seeking to limit China's growing influence. Russia too stayed quiet despite buying Iranian drones for its war in Ukraine. If these allies won't help when Iran is under attack, what are those alliances really worth? This moment exposed the limits of those relationships. Iran is now more isolated than it has been in decades, and may need to recalculate its place in the global order. As its nuclear ambitions are slowed, so too may be its geopolitical utility to China and Russia. For years, critics painted Trump as an isolationist, but this operation has clarified his position. He's not anti-war, he's anti-failure. After the way the Afghanistan withdrawal was conducted, many questioned whether the US still had the will to act. Operation Midnight Hammer answered that, for now. Decisive, strategic, calibrated. The message has rippled far beyond Iran, to Moscow, to Beijing, to Pyongyang, even to Mexico's cartels. The red lines are back, and this time they mean something. Even Israel got a reminder. After attempting its own retaliatory strike post-ceasefire, in an interview before boarding a plane to the NATO summit, Trump was angry and told Israel to turn its planes back, which it promptly did. Whether it was genuine or part of a choreographed message, it showed one thing. Allies too are expected to align. The ceasefire is holding for now. Israel is going back to relative normalcy. Gulf states are breathing quietly, but things depend on Iran's next move. Will it really accept the off-ramp? Will it try to regroup? Or will it unravel? Trump and his administration are mostly very direct and clear about what they want strategically. In this case, no nuclear weapons for Iran, even as they may obfuscate tactically as part of strategy. And those who mistake ambiguity for weakness, they may find out the hard way. That was this week's episode of Global Risk Profile. If you found it valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who still believes geopolitics end at the water's edge. Until next time, stay informed, stay discerning, and stay human.